Welcome back to Direct Edition, a podcast about nothing and everything. And I am your host, Dave. And I just want to let you know I'm fine. I'm okay. No permanent damage done that I can at least tell. And so thank you for your concern if you had any. Today, I am bringing you a brand new episode with my pal and master artist and creative genius, Alex Pardee. Alex has a solo show at the Harman Projects in New York City right now. It opened 2 days ago. It's called Dream Bleeder. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot today. Alex is just a master when it comes to the bringing a creativeness to the entirety of a solo art show or his art in general. He kind of goes above and beyond what you would think of an art show, including backstory and lore and different artifacts involved. And this one is no slouch because he really pulled out all the stops for Dream Bleeder. So much so that I brought this Dream Bleeder home from Japan, as you saw. Yeah, it's definitely not a good idea to play around with these types of things. But me and Alex get to talk about his creative background that goes into the show and how far back the show and the idea for Dream Bleeder has gone, as well as his actual art process in and getting past art block. Like if you are an artist, this episode is going to really help with some of the stuff that Alex talks about and some of the ideas that he executed to kind of bring out more creativity inside himself. We also get to talk about a couple other things, including our shared love of horror movies and one recent movie that we're kind of gushing over, that's Obsession. We talk about that a bit and just the kind of last 10 or so years of horror movies and how things have changed and how amazing movies have come out. Alex talks about his friend Sam Kieth, who we recently lost, and Sam was a master illustrator and comic book artist and creator of the Max, and just kind of brought an incredible style to comics that wasn't there. And Alex gets to talk about his friendship with him and the collaborations that they had. And it's just nice to hear Alex talk about somebody that we all loved but didn't know too much about. So thank you for being here on the 6th season, the 2nd episode, and thank you to Alex for his time. Dream Bleeder opened up 2 days ago at the Harman Projects in New York City. It is up until June 27th, so check it out. And why don't we get to my interview with Alex Pardee? Oh, hey, Alex, hey, sorry about that.
You're good. Are you okay?
I think I'll be okay, but I guess I should have heeded the warnings of using a Dream Bleeder, especially on myself.
Where did you get one?
Well, after seeing some of the documentary stuff that you've put out about Dream Bleeders, I went even darker. I went beyond the Silk Road. I found a couple of websites that told you like the things to get to build one, and I was just in Japan, so I found some of the Japanese Dream Bleeder components and built one myself.
Crazy.
Yeah,
dude,
so
you're braver than I am. I mean, I have one, but I would never try to build one. So,
bravery or stupidity, one of the two.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna lean on stupidity.
So yeah, you've got this art show coming up, and it's called Dream Bleeder, and you're just about, well, when this comes out, it'll have opened up, and it'll be about 2 days after the opening at Harman Projects in New York City. But take me into the beginning of the lore of it, because you're a master of lore when it comes to your shows.
I mean, I'm just a purveyor of the truth. The origin of the lore is we met in New York, right?
Yeah, we did.
There we go. And you're not going to be there this time. And that you're the only other time I've had my art in New York, you were there for being my comfort blanket, and now you're not going to be there.
Oh,
it's all right. I mean, I am a little nervous about, like, not nervous, but, just like excited, I guess, to be in New York for the first time, for the most part, ever, with the exception of the Cotton Candy Machine show.
Yeah.
So like, with my art shows, I tend to basically like use my art shows as way to like celebrate movies that don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for the lack of a better word. A lot of the times I kind of create storytelling for them. I take a weird approach to art shows, which it's not weird to me, but I brought it up to somebody the other day and they were like, why would anybody do that? That's dumb. I mean, they didn't say that for the most part, but like I tend to spend a lot of time writing
Hmm.
before I work on the visual of the show,
Yeah.
which I guess kind of is, when an art show already takes 6 months to a year to make, it's like I'm spending, 3 months writing of that. And it's like, why would you do that? Just make art. But to me, it always gives me parameters, right?
Hmm.
Like I I have a style, I have a subject matter that I like, I have like things that I'm interested in, things that I'm inspired by, but I'm always really scared of doing the same thing at, you know, here I have an art show and it's like, cool, you draw weird goopy monsters. Now the next show, more weird goopy monsters. And like, so I like to try to like push myself a little bit to kind of go a little bit further with, if I'm going to do weird goopy monsters, I want them to at least be in a different world than the last goopy monsters that I did.
Right.
Right. So, this one actually, this is actually something that I started. Oh, it's going to date me. 15 years ago now. This art show has
Wow.
been around for 15 years for the most part. Not this particular one, but the lore.
Hmm.
I started this story about this, or I guess it was less of a story and more of an idea of, I struggled with nightmares a lot when I was younger. I had like anxiety and depression and stuff. And, one of the things that I always thought as a kid was that it would be like, like how cool would it be if like, I can't control my dreams, I can't control my nightmares, right? Like they happen, and like if I get fucked up in them, I get fucked up in them, right? Like, if I get scared, whatever. But I'm like, but how cool would it be if I could bring them into this world, like the real world, where I could actually have some control and I can like, fight them or whatever. I'd still lose, but like at least there'd
Yeah.
be like that little bit of sense of control. And so the original kind of idea just kind of came from that, where it was like I want to create a way to a believable way to magically bring nightmares out into the real world. So I kind of like did some lore on that 15 years ago, wrote kind of a bunch of stuff, and ended up actually having a early version of this Dream Bleeder show at Corey Helford Gallery in Los Angeles. So the first
Mm.
iteration of this was an art show that I did 15 years ago called Vertigo, and in that was one of my biggest art shows, even still to this day. Both with like the collection of work that I did, the scale of it, and kind of the immersiveness. And all my art shows since then, I've been trying to kind of like recapture that. Um, I guess that immersiveness, which to a degree I have. It's just been different stuff the whole time. Every world has been different, but I've always really liked that lore, and that you know anything that can give me a reason to create unique monsters based in trauma. Like that's that's give me that reason. So it's like I'll just give that reason to myself. And so I'd been thinking about revisiting it for a long time. I'd been kind of like trying to develop it as a TV series or movie, or just here and there, kind of dabbling with it, and I just like really got the urge to like dive back into that world when I found out I was having this solo show. I was like, I was like, oh, is it like weird to do like a sequel or a reboot of my own stuff? And I'm like, I mean, it was 15 years ago. Nobody even remembers that, like even if somebody does, like this is going to be way different. So I just kind of like tried to get myself back into like that world that there was 15 years ago, but then kind of just dismantled it and was like, okay, what would it be if I started this now? Like, like society's changed, I've changed,
Oh
things have
yeah.
changed, like, so what, like even like general trauma has changed. So
Yes.
like so I just kind of like stripped it all away and was like I still like the essence of extracting nightmares from people and seeing what, you know, um, one of the things that like interested me and that I wanted to portray was that like, in my art is obviously reflective of movies. I love
Sure.
movies. I grew up wanting to be a filmmaker and realized you can't do it with just myself, and I was too reclusive to not. So I got into visual arts,
Hmm.
but always love movies to death. And so a lot of my artwork and shows are kind of, inspired by movies and by this concept of a bigger world.
Yeah, I think one of the promo videos or one of the things that you had posted online previous to the show said I wanted to create a movie that never existed. Something that never existed. And
Mhm.
I think going back to your point of would anybody care that you're revisiting this idea and maybe reshaping it? It's like anybody who's followed your career for this long is along for the ride. Nobody would leave because of it. And some of the imagery that you've put into this already, is fucking traumatizing. The teeth, the thing with all the teeth everywhere, and I don't want it, but I want it. Like I want to look at it all day, but at the same time, like I know if I stare at it, it's going to invade my sleep and my
That is
dreams.
a that is an 8 foot tall deformed witch.
Is that a an actual sculpt that's going to be
Uh,
at the show?
I mean, it's real. I don't know if you'd call a real mummified skull a sculpt, but I guess in the bigger terms of like, did God sculpt it? Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay,
Did I
yeah.
find it? Yes. Did somebody physically like make it? Like, no.
No, right, right. But it
Other
manifested
stuff
it.
in the show is sculpted and
Okay.
found and stuff, but that specific thing is the inspiration for the show for the most part. It's like I take a hint of something that does exist and I apply it, and then I build a fork in the road and I go, here's this idea that exists, here's the reality of it, nothing really much happens there, here's my reality, all this shit happens here, I'm gonna go down that path.
Uh, all right. Well, I'm
It's
I'm
Ripley's Believe
scared.
It or Not,
Yeah, I'm scared for anybody that's going to be in the presence of it, but at the same time, I'm enticed to be in the presence of it. It's one of those things. I feel like this entire show and everything surrounding Dream Bleeder is the thing that like in a movie, we wonder why character A goes down in the basement or goes in the woods alone, and then like that's the feeling is like, oh, you're not that character. Well, the character is just drawn to it, and I feel drawn to this
Yeah, I mean, I
teeth
wanted,
thing.
I wanted, I've always wanted to make a, Bloody Mary, Candyman kind of folklore. Like
Mhm.
I, I, I love that. So this is a step towards that. I think.
Would would you say this is like every time you do an art show, there's always some really interesting story behind it. Sometimes it's really tough to like breaking kayfabe. It's really tough to tell like if you wrote this story or if this is something that I've just never heard of in some fucking book, in some occult book that I've never read. Um,
Yeah, I mean that's the most fun for me is like, you know, the reality is something illegally imported into the United States going to be at an art gallery show in New York. I mean, actually, maybe I've seen
yeah,
Hellraiser, so maybe but like the my most satisfying moments is not even like if people like the art, because like I do it for like cool. Not everyone's gonna like it. I get it, but like if you like
mhm.
it, that's cool. But if you're looking at something and I see you pull out your phone and Google Dream Bleeder for a split second, that's my favorite thing in the world. I'm like, okay, I got it. Even if like you're like, this can't be, but maybe, and then
Maybe.
yeah, I like to like. I think my next art show is just going to be called "But Maybe."
I'm happy to admit it worked on me. And I know you. Like that's the crazy thing. Like I should have known better not to Google Dream Bleeder and think that I would get a result that wasn't related to you. But lo and behold, I
I
did.
mean,
And I
you know, Well, I mean, like lost media is such a big thing now. Like with the internet, like both like with the early stages of the internet, there was like there people were trying to find lost media that was like on VHS or this and that.
Hmm.
But now the internet has changed so much that so much has gotten stripped away from the internet. So now the lost media is also part of like the early internet lore. So like really
Yeah.
anything could have been available. Like, like this could have been something that was on rotten.com or, like whatever.
Hmm.
You know?
Or
So
like on a early YouTube video that is 480 or whatever that looks
yeah.
so I yet it's something that and as a person that was a fan of your art before I knew you, like it's something that I think the Marrow might have been the first show I ever saw of yours. That was at
Okay.
1988, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah.
not so that was one of the let me think, did that come before? That came before my Vertigo show, I believe. Yes. So
Hmm.
yeah, the Marrow show was probably the first one that I did this kind of like build an IP around, and for that show, uh, another excuse to draw monsters. I made this world where this conspiracy theorist was convinced that there's these monsters hiding underground in a world, and he was the only one that could go and see them, and he ended up taking one step too far, and they started coming after him. So it was all of his kind of like studies and descriptions of monsters that I would then kind of draw. Um, and so that was a really, really fun show. And I think, the results of that show is what kind of keeps drawing me back to this idea, because that show actually we did option it, and my
Hmm.
friend Adam Green and I ended up making a film out of it. So, it was cool just to see like so many people come through and be like, I like them to have the idea where they're like, oh, this could be a movie. And I'm like, oh, you
Hmm.
think so? Yeah, maybe. But it's like, that's, I love that, of course. Like, when one of my favorite things when I was younger, my dad and mom took me to, I lived in the Bay Area and San Francisco. I believe it was at the Moscone Center in the late 80s. And they had a Star Wars concept show with
Oh
like,
wow.
original
Ralph McQuarrie.
costumes, original props, original concept art, storyboards, all that. And up until that point, like, I had loved, like, I was 10 years old. I loved Star Wars, like, more than anything. And I knew everything about it. And up until that point, I never thought that it was like, created. Like, I mean, I didn't think it
Sure.
was real, but I just never thought about what went into it. Right.
Hmm.
Until I went there. And that was like super inspiring as to being like, oh, like all this stuff was thought out before it got to you, right? Before it
Hmm.
got to like seeing, like they went through all these processes of like what would be the coolest, and so like I kind of am forever kind of trying to capture that thing of like, when I present something to somebody, I want it to have already gone through these cycles of what would be cool, like with this Dream Bleeder show, like I said, like I had some lore, but I kind of threw it all out and started over and just went through months of like, you know, what what is this thing? Because like originally it was, just it was one specific music box. It was just like a actually like Dave Korea had actually made a prototype for my last show for it, and it was
Hmm.
just kind of like it was awesome, but it was just a very standard, not standard, but like more like a Terry Gilliam esque kind of music box, and I was like, no, I was like, it's got to be cursed, it's got to be gross, it's got to be real, it's got to be descended from witches, it's got to be like really, really like I want that end of it. So I kind of like started creating all of these kind of ideas of like what would these kind of like ancient cultures have done if to cure people from their nightmares and this and that. So yeah, it's fun.
It's and in that kind of story, like, or even any of the ones that you've done, just kind of shifting off to the comic thing. Have you ever thought about taking one of these concepts and turning it into a comic book series? You already have the visual component
Yeah,
and
I
you
mean,
have the story.
so I've thought about it more than you probably know. I think about it like every day, but I I think it's a little bit more of a reality in my brain now than it was. Like I am so I'm not control freak's the wrong word, but I grew up doing everything myself. You
Yeah.
know, like being so DIY, everything from publishing my own comics to distributing stuff to printing actual T-shirts to like doing things.
Hmm.
And so the idea of taking one of these properties and turning it into a comic, I always put everything on myself. I was always
Yeah.
like shit, I don't have time to write it and draw it and do the covers and do this and like figure out sequential storytelling. I'm not good at that. It's like, how am I going to do this? And like, and so the idea of like, you know, teaming up with somebody every once in a while came up, but it was like my career got so busy that it was always kind of like hard to want to kind of pivot to that. Not want to, but like just kind of hard to find the time to kind of try to pivot to that. But
Sure.
now it's, there is so many more avenues to collaborate and to, get a comic made and get stuff that like I'm definitely starting to kind of like, I'm already bugging Wayshak about stuff.
I was just gonna say there's a young upstart named John
Wayshak,
Wayshak.
granted, for Wayshak's credit, he's always been like, we should do a comic. If you want to do a comic, I'll draw it, whatever. And like in my head, it's always been this like, you know, not to segue into Sam Kieth, but it's almost like this thing of like Sam, like I'm such a fanboy of John that like I don't want to work with it. Like it doesn't feel real. Like it's like I can't. I know how much work he puts into stuff. I know how much it goes. Like I wouldn't feel right if I'm just like, yeah, I'll just like tell him what to draw. Here, draw me this Stegosaurus.
Well, I mean, that is the thing though. I mean, you're the two of you would probably create one hell of a book together. I mean, you did the cover for you did a variant cover for the last issue of Cul-de-sac, and
Yeah.
like that book was unbelievable. And obviously, Mike Carey writing the script
Mm-hmm.
is, you got a great guy behind the wheel, but um it would just be, I mean, I think you would also light the world on fire, comic world on fire, because like, I mean, it's not like John wasn't an established comic person, but look how many people are turned on to his work just on this
Oh my God.
one,
He's yeah.
this one miniseries. So, I mean, I'd love to see it. And I think you're right. Like, it's like I get the whole control thing because like everything that I've done creatively has been me doing it and
Mm-hmm.
my voice and all that. And it's not illustrating, but I think right now you do have a lot of tools with self-publishing. You have a lot of tools with crowdfunding and not having to worry like, will this make it into comic stores? It's like, no, you just tell people it's going to happen,
Yeah.
and people will fund it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I do think it's it it is so definitely like not on my bucket list because I don't plan on dying anytime soon. But it's definitely on my list
sure,
to
sure.
get done. Yeah. So
And you've seen, I mean, like you talked about it, with the Marrow, and like you've been trying to get stuff made, either, movies or animated stuff for years, and you've seen what the entertainment industry has become and how hard it is to get something made. And comics remains the one, no budget. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, you can
right.
create it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And it really locks it into. I think that's one of the things that I kind of I don't necessarily regret, but all of these kind of IPs that I've done, for the most part, they just exist on the internet. They
mhm,
kind of exist in maybe a zine form with or like a program for an art show, but like the thing that people most connect with is a visual companion to stuff, and it kind of solidifies the canon for it, and that. So it is. I feel like it would kind of get to another group of people that aren't paying attention to an Instagram that's out of order.
yeah. Oh God. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Going back to the show, you shared a couple of process videos that were really interesting. I don't know, I know you've done Twitch and you used to do a lot of live stream, but I don't think there's a ton of, you know, uh, you know, process stuff out there where you're talking about it. And what I found interesting about your approach is the shape, the way that you kind of prelim the show with shapes and your shape language, and then went from that. Like, is that something new for you, or at least new for you to share?
Yeah, so I mean, like, what what you're talking about is for this show specifically. I basically like just created a bunch of do I have anything here? I don't think I have one here. Um, here. Oh, here's one. I created a bunch of stuff like this, like just
Yeah.
black scribble, like with no I'm not even going to pay attention. Some are circles, some are squares, some are weird squigglies. Um, and then I would just kind of put tracing paper over it and kind of see, play with it in form of like a cloud. What do I see in the clouds, kind of thing, and just do kind of sketches on top of sketches for those until something kind of formed. Because that's where I'm the most confident at. And to answer your question, if that's an approach that I do, yes and no. Um,
Hmm.
I am a scribbler, so I do scribble, and where I'm most confident is making something that I think is cool out of a scribble, right? Like, I'm less confident in you telling me to draw a stegosaurus and then drawing
Hmm.
it. Very hard. I'll have to use 20 references, I'll punch myself in the face, and this and that, and it'll turn out fine, but like
Sure.
it won't be. I won't be as confident as the result as like if you give me like a bunch of shapes to play with and go make something cool, and I'm like, hell yeah, this thing's like a weird. This looks like a fish getting eaten by a big eyeball guy. Like cool, and then you're like, how do you think of that? And I'm like, I didn't. The shape was just there. Um, but but I haven't really done that, this kind of black blotch approach, in a long time. It's something that I did do as like a teenager and when I would kind of like get in an artist block in the past. And so what I was finding out, like I had written a lot of this lore and I had even come up with like some ideas for nightmares that I wanted to kind of like embody and draw and figure out. Um, and but what was happening was these last couple years, I've just been moving so fast that a lot of the artwork that I'm creating to me has felt similar. Like
Yeah.
I'll get into like this just needs to be. I need something for this or I need something for that. So I'm drawing very similar shapes than what I've been doing. I'm putting the similar eyes and mouth on something or whatever. And I was like, the one of the things that was so exciting for me with the original iteration of this show was that um, I was creating things. I was pushing myself to create things that weren't just coming out of nothing, that didn't matter. And so I was like, I got to do that again. But I just really couldn't get out of this space of like, no matter if I wanted to think of like a weird fish guy, I would scribble and it would still look like it's coming out of like the same kind of vein that I had in the last 2 years. So just as an experiment, I was like, you know what? I just need to get things out visually. So I mean, I did, 150 of these black blotch spotch things. And like, I just did it almost like as like kind of like a mental reset.
Hmm.
Um, and then I would like kind of just look at them and see if any of them did spark any ideas, and most of them didn't. I was like, oh, this is just a scribble. But then some of them did, and I would just sit there and scribble with them, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I never would have thought to like draw this before. This is cool. I like this. And then most of them wouldn't resemble totally what the blob looked like, but like that's where it started. That was kind of the bone. So it was almost like a sculpting, I guess, thing where like you get a lump
Yeah.
of clay and you kind of fold it and then you go, all right, I'm going to move that. So that's kind of what I did. And it tended also to fit the theme of kind of like subconsciousness and nightmares and stuff, I think.
Yeah. It sounds like a great exercise too, just in general
Yeah. I mean,
for,
I'm going to probably get back into doing it because I went from like super bummed out and stressed out and like no one's gonna like this to like I'm not like what am I doing, like I'm not gonna, there's no way I'm gonna like even do something even as similar as what I did 10 years ago, and like that sucks because it's 10 years later I should be way better, and I was just like getting myself down, and then I just did that, and it was a way of it was a way of inspiring me just by giving my imagination a jolt and not, just that. So
Man, that's really like something that I probably and anybody can take in some version in their life and do something with it, like whether it's a free writing exercise or something like that, or just letting a pen, do something if you're an artist. So I love to hear that.
yeah, and you know what else? Like, we don't have to talk about it on this podcast because it's a whole different conversation. But like, also, there's a lot of like, AI has kind of created a crutch for a lot of people, like
Mhm.
visual art, like, and I wanted to kind of like do the opposite of that, where it was kind of like, I want to create I want to start with something that is such the opposite of anything a prompt could make.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't I don't care who you are, how many prompts you try, you couldn't get like a black blob that doesn't mean anything. Like, like
Right. Right,
you
because that
can't.
goes
There's no
against
there's
what
no
programming is.
right. So I wanted to start there and then be like, okay, like this is me, this is my imagination, this is this, because so much stuff is getting, I mean, there's even stuff getting that is original that's getting tagged as AI, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, yeah, it's because the generative AI steals from everything, and
Mm-hmm.
so then it makes it look like yeah. But the one
Yeah.
thing, and we can always, or at least I fucking hope that we can pretty much rely on is that physical art can't be replicated by anything because it's not physical; it's digital.
Right. Right.
Nobody could AI your paintings. It's not
Right.
possible because there's God. I hope it's not possible in the future
I mean,
either.
they said no one could AI Brad Pitt's face, and that thing looks perfect.
But yeah, but you know what the thing is about that clip?
I'm just
And
kidding.
I know. The crazy thing, and we don't have to harp on it, but the crazy thing is we watch these AI clips of these fight scenes. Nobody connects a fucking punch or a kick. It's just a bunch of blocking. I'm like, oh,
It's yeah,
okay. I'd like to
it's
see somebody try to do that with a movie like The Raid.
right, which you can't because there's too much creativity involved in it.
Hmm. But it's good to know that like you tried to kind of get outside that block by trying
Mhm.
something that required, physical movement, but maybe kind of like it sounds like you almost detached your mind a little bit and just let the hand do the thing and then let your mind come back to it.
Yeah, and
So,
also it's so hard as we get older and more responsibilities and less money that you gain from creative arts. Like
yes.
there, it's so weird that like times have changed so much that like the more the more established you get, the budgets are still going down and down and down. And
Yeah.
I'm not complaining because I'm in the same boat as so many other people. But that being said, it's like it just I don't know. I lost my train of thought again, but
That's
it's
okay. The train might have hit something. There might have been a car in the middle of the train tracks, and I rest in peace to the people that died in that train of thought that just went
yeah.
awry. But that would be a fun little skit to do. Like you animate yourself like having a train of thought, and then the train, there's like the camera pans all the way down to a car stuck on the tracks, and the train just hits the car and goes off the tracks. And you're
Oh
like,
my
damn, what was, and then it zooms back out to you being like, what the hell was I
god. Yeah.
thinking of?
No, it'll never come back.
How many pieces in all is the show gonna have approximately?
Well, as far as like actual like paintings that'll be for sale,
Hmm.
um, there's like 15 like major pieces, right?
Yeah.
But I'm in the middle of, hopefully, since this does air after the show opens, there might
Yeah.
be more because I'm still working on some smaller ones. Um, but for right now, there's kind of like, if I was to break my arm right now and not be able to do anything else, there's a full art show with like 15 full paintings. And but one of the things that I do with my shows, which I like, that
Hmm.
is that there's a lot of additional stuff in addition to the paintings to enjoy. It's like
Right.
I love going to I've used the Disneyland kind of like comparison before, whereas like growing up, I loved going to Disneyland because like, you know, I had you have two options. You have the option of like going on Thunder Mountain Railroad. Great, cool.
Mhm.
You have the other option of standing in line and like looking at all these kind of artifacts that it throws your way and a little newspaper article, and then you're like, oh, this ride's actually about like miners that died in the mine and they got stuck and now they're haunting this railroad. And and I'm like, that's pretty sick. So then going on the ride is kind of like that's the reward for going on this narrative. And then mixing that with like natural history museums where you go in and there's a timeline of stuff leading up to here's where it talks about making the first tools of something, and then all of a sudden you see the tool and you're like, that's awesome. And so it puts things in context. And so a lot of my shows, this one included, I like to add context and excitement and lore building up to kind of like what things are, because my goal is twofold. And much like the Disneyland approach, it's like, I want to create art that's visually cool to look at. You can walk in, you don't need to know anything. You just go, man, that's a cool monster. That looks fucked up. Weird. Anyways, cool. On to the next one. Whoa, a skull? That's sick. And then like, but if you have the option of kind of like leading up to being like, oh wow, that skull was found in Madagascar and it's actually like this, and and it kind of like you have the option of seeing how I see it, right? Basically,
Sure.
Or you can kind of make your own interpretation, which is totally fine too. And so these pieces that I have, like there's 15, but like each one of them also has like the original ink splot drawing that I originated from. And then also I did these kind of like information cards, like not so much on like the back of G.I. Joe packages or something, but like more like in like a natural history museum, or like if you go hiking and there'll be like a pole that's like, here's the spotted owl, and then it tells you a little bit about the spotted owl. So all of my paintings have these kind of like nightmare dissections underneath them where it talks about the classification of nightmares, the strength of them physically and mentally, the size comparison, and then excerpts from interviews about the patients that suffered from these nightmares. So you learn more about kind of like what this is. You're like, oh, that's a weird cheese monster. And then you look at it and you're like, oh, that's way more fucked up than a cheese monster. So it's fun.
That's the cheese that bites back.
Yeah. And then this time I also have, in addition to the real genuine mummified dream bleeder that I will have that no one has seen yet and no one's going to touch because I'm not going to let them, because it's like you might experienced already. I don't know. We have to talk about that. It's kind of a dangerous thing to do. But in addition to that, I do have two pretty good size sculptures that my friend Greg Aronowitz did based on two of my paintings show, and no one has seen those yet, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah, Greg's a talent beyond talent.
Yeah, so cool. So I'm super. And one of them we did a little while ago that I've just been wanting to share, and I just have refused. I've been like, wait till you see it. It's going to be so sick. So
yeah. I unfortunately, I haven't been to a show in a while of yours because of the fact that it's either in, it's in LA, but even like the tumor show was great because there was just an added component to it that was like, even if you weren't there doing what you did with Chloe, even if that wasn't there, it was still cool. Like there was a lot of cool, I don't know, like accoutrement to the show.
Yeah.
In in something like dreams and nightmares, do you keep a dream journal at all? Have you ever kept a dream journal, at least as an adult?
I never have. Occasionally I'll like open my notes app and write whatever random kind of thing I just experienced. But, for general, I know I mentioned that like I had bad dreams when I was younger, but for the most part as an adult, despite, still going through depression and anxiety and, stuff that will never kind of go away, like my dreams are fairly boring. And I don't remember a lot of them, but I mean, I wake up and I go, oh, thank God that was a dream. But like, even if I'm saying, thank God that was a dream and it's a nightmare, it's like literally like the nightmare will be like, oh, my phone won't stop buzzing, or like, like I can't find a toilet. Like, like it's like things that are like just a little bit hyper realized, but like
Yeah,
in
they're
my dream, they're
annoying.
fucking torturous. And I still am very thankful that I woke up and I did not shit my pants. But like, like it's not like, very rarely am I like, running for my life or like, sinking to the bottom of the ship and fighting something and, so.
Yeah. I mean, I every once in a while will have a straight up nightmare, but I used to have them as a kid. Like I used to have them a lot to the point of I had a recurring one where I was in my bed and like all of my friends were hanging out in my room while I was in bed in my underwear.
Yeah.
And like I'd wake up and think that all my friends were still in the room. And it
Oh,
would happen often, which is so
dude,
weird.
that's like that
So
movie Mother.
weird.
That movie Mother is like the most
Yeah.
nightmare like that. Dude, you want to hear like a crazy dream thing that I had when I was younger? So
Yeah.
I never really had recurring nightmares, but I had this one nightmare that stuck with me forever. And this was, I was probably like 14 or 15. And I had this nightmare where I got in an elevator and there was a few other people in the elevator, and the elevator, instead of going up or down, it went like diagonal down. And I remember being weirded out by that, but then it fell, and so it went down and everybody was like screaming and it went down, and when it hit, we all like flew against the wall and like splattered, and like I remember like sinking down into the thing. And then what sucked about it is I didn't wake up. I instead sat there dead for like 3 hours, like just watching myself be dead. And it was like so terrifying. And then so
No.
I did always remember that. And then when I turned 21 and we went to Las Vegas, we went to the Luxor and they had an elevator that went diagonal, and I refused to get, I was like, nope, not getting, I refuse. I still to this day have never gone in the Luxor elevator.
That dream was clearly a prophecy that you have avoided coming true, and the only one way to make it true is to get in that
Dude,
elevator.
I did invent Crystal Pepsi in my dream though. That was specifically, I was a sophomore in high school, and so it was like what, 92, I think.
Hmm.
And I had a dream, and it was specifically, I told everybody about this. This is why I know. I specifically in my dream went to a vending machine, and I got a Pepsi, and it was clear, and it still tasted like Pepsi. And I told everybody in my dream. And when I woke up, I was like, you guys will never believe this. I drank clear Pepsi in my dream last night. It was so crazy. And everyone's just like, you're stupid. And less than a year later, Crystal Pepsi came out, and I was like, I fucking knew it. I knew it.
Were you also listening to Van Halen a lot at the time? Because then we really have
Oh, why?
that
What
because
was going on with?
I'm pretty sure the first commercial for Crystal Pepsi was with Van Hagar Right Now.
Oh,
And
really?
that was their
Oh,
first
that's funny.
campaign, was with the song Right Now.
Oh, that's funny.
Um
No, but was Van
and
Halen listening to me?
That's
Is the
true. That's true. And then who knows? That means you also kind of prophesized Crystal Gravy, which was the SNL version of
Oh
Crystal
yeah,
Pepsi.
that's right. That's right.
What a time in pop culture. I mean, that's something that we've talked about, and me and Dave have talked about a lot. Is just, and me and my brother talk about, because we're all in the same, age gap, is, like when we used to talk about and know all of the marketing and all of the commercials and all of the things surrounding it, was like a culture thing. And now
Mhm.
I couldn't tell you three commercials that exist or three jingles that exist in said
I mean, I could
commercials.
just tell you that I know a lot about mesothelioma.
If you have experience, if you have been exposed to asbestos.
Yeah.
Oh, hello there. We'll get right back to the video. I want to let you know that I have a Patreon that supports both of my channels, Direct Edition and West Coast Davengers. For $5 a month, you can help contribute and support the channels. You get bonus videos from both channels. You get a chance to vote for a video that I record where I flip through a rare book. And every 2 months, you can take part in a private sale of stuff from my personal collection, my inventory, and my travels, stuff that is not available anywhere else, but it goes to you first, my friends. The link is in the description below. Direct Davengerinos, that's my Patreon, $5 a month. And now back to the video. anything else about the show? Because I there's a couple other things I want to mention that aren't about the show, but anything else you wanted to talk
No,
about
I
at
mean,
all?
like,
Or
I think just if you're watching this and the show's still up, it runs until June 27th. And if you're
Mhm.
around the East Coast, I know, New York is a big place, but also, as opposed to California, there's also a lot of places surrounding New York. I'm like, oh, you could just
Yes.
go there. Like, you can go to another state. Like, that's cool. So if you live anywhere around that area and it's still up, you should go visit it, because hopefully, it wasn't a complete failure.
Oh, it won't
It was
be. I
cool.
mean, look, in a 5-hour drive, you could come from Philly, from DC, from Baltimore, from Boston, from Hartford. I
Oh,
mean, I can, you know,
yeah.
name
No,
them
yeah.
all.
So I'm really excited about that. I mean, like, like I said, like, the last time I was in New York with my art was actually for the Digging Up the Marrow movie release, which we brought some of the Digging
Mm,
Up the Marrow art for that release, but that was only a one night thing. And then previous to that was the Cotton Candy Machine in
20
2012, maybe.
yeah, 2012 or 13, because that was the last time that was the
Yeah,
last time I saw your art
yeah,
on the East
2012,
Coast.
2013, because the Marrow was the 14 or 15. So it was a year before that. And then yeah, and then that's it. I haven't been out to New York with my art since then. So, there's been a lot of new people who I'd like to meet. There's a lot of people that have still been supporting me and following me since then, like, your case in point, you. So, I'm
Yeah.
excited to see new people. And there's a lot of artists out there that I like, so I'm hopefully I can bug some artists to come say hi. So see.
Yeah, yeah, and, I actually originally thought about coming out, and then I ended up going to Japan 2 weeks ago, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't as much as I'd love to travel, like, you get this because you do so much stuff. Everything you do is in your compound that you work
Mhm.
on. I was like, if I leave here, I've gotta double down when I come back
Oh yeah.
and do, so much more work.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing that I'd asked you about earlier this week, but, dude, Obsession, man.
Oh,
I saw the
the movie,
movie on Monday and holy shit, like,
dude. What a
do you
what a
did you
what
know?
a what a movie about a horrible human.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
great movie about a horrible human.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
cowardice human being that it was such an were you familiar with Curry Barker beforehand? Because I
Oh
was
yeah,
not.
I love Milk and Cereal. So he's made short form footage, long form footage stuff on for a while. A
Mhm.
lot of it's comedy based. He made a couple of horror based stuff. One called The Chair, and then he made this movie called Milk and Cereal 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago
Yeah,
now. And I am like such a sucker for found footage movies that I watch all of them, even though 90% of them are terrible. But I
sure.
was blown away by like that movie. It's free on YouTube. It's less than an hour.
Mhm.
So I had watched Milk and Cereal, which is free on YouTube. It's great. It's an hour long, and it is a found footage movie about a young serial killer, and it's so good. And so instantly, I was just like, "All right, yeah, this dude's funny." And like him and Cooper, who are they're the kind of like teammate that they wrote a lot of stuff together. Like I was like, dude, this is like there's something special here. And then as soon as Obsession got announced, like I was dying to see it, but I also was like okay with waiting because I knew that like
Yeah,
there and it kind of sucks. Almost every movie that comes out it gets so overhyped now, you know,
sure.
and it's hard to kind of like go into expectations thinking this is going to be the best movie because things can be the best, but almost nothing is the scariest. Almost nothing is the most crazy, like whatever. And so I wouldn't even say that Obsession is that. Obsession is just a genuinely greatly crafted film.
Yeah, I after seeing Obsession, because I first heard his name, and, for me, or for I think anybody that's a fan of horror, I'm like, "Wait, is this person related to Clive Barker?" Because I heard horror
Uh,
movie, Curry Barker. But, I went in pretty much, I would say 99% blind to the movie, and, holy shit, man, like, the
yeah,
anxiety, the squirming in my seat, the
yeah,
just not feeling good about anything in that
yeah.
movie.
I mean, it was an uncomfortable movie. It was like I think that if you have any kind of like triggers for being uncomfortable, embarrassed, any of that stuff, like don't go see it. Like
Yeah, yeah, or wait
or
till it's at
see it and
home.
just kind of like enjoy it. Know that it's
Yeah,
fake. Like
but as soon as I
because it's a
got
different
home,
type of horror. It's such a psychological horror.
it's psychological, it's very, like, some of the scenes where she's in the background just staring like that kind of uneasiness is always one of my favorite things because not not you don't see it often used as brilliantly as Curry Barker was using it.
Right, right.
And the
Yeah,
fact
no,
that he
yeah,
wrote, directed, and edited.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Usually the editing too is like usually like you shouldn't edit your own stuff because you'll get in your head and you'll put too much out there. But like he's always edited his stuff, so he knows what he's doing. And it's so cool to see like the kind of like the younger like YouTube kids just like doing it. Like it's such a fuck you to Hollywood in the best way,
Hmm.
you know? Like they're like,
Hmm.
we can make stuff for $50,000. It's just as good, if not better, than anything that you guys can make. It's awesome. So I root for those guys a lot. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool.
it's like a new era of DIY. And like I said, I didn't know who he was, but when I got home from the theater, I went on YouTube. I watched Milk and Cereal that
Oh, you
night.
did?
The
Nice.
next night I watched The Chair, and I've been like kind of just going through a little bit at a time of what him
Yeah,
and
their comedy
what's
stuff. Cooper,
yeah.
Cooper Robinson. Yeah,
Coop-
their comedy is really funny too. Speaking of that film Obsession, like it's the last few years have been amazing for me for horror. Like as a fan, just for like
Mhm.
horror and movies in general. But like my two of my like now probably top 10 favorite movies of all time, The Substance and now Obsession, have moved up very closely, and both of them are like intentionally or not, to me, very like the best written, best directed Tales from the Crypt episodes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Tales
yeah.
from the Crypt is my favorite TV show of all time. And so like seeing these movies that are like long form Tales from the Crypt episodes that are, you know, regardless of it being my favorite GB ever, these are better than those, and it's
Sure.
so cool. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's been a really I mean, and the horror kind of I hesitate to use the word, but the elevation of horror over the last decade and change, starting with a lot of the A24 stuff, The Witch, Hereditary, Midsummer, and then Babadook and stuff with Neon. Like, it's just inspiring because it's been now 10 or so years. It's inspiring people that were teens when they saw those movies, and now they're in their 20s, like a Curry Barker and Cooper. Like, it's amazing to see how much it's accelerated just so quickly,
Yeah. I mean,
you know?
it's nuts to think of that. Like as a kid, you can see Hereditary as a kid. Like that's
Yeah.
nuts, right? Like
Yeah.
in the same way that we would see The Shining as a kid,
Hmm.
like that kind of I wouldn't compare those two movies directly, but like in the same kind of vein of like, you know, in this elevated horror kind of sense, like The Shining is
Psychological. Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and it's a far it's far enough away from the horror schlock. Great, rightfully so,
Love
great stuff
horror
that we
schlock.
grew up. Yeah, yeah, but it's as far away from it as you
Yeah.
possibly get because like I don't know, you're somebody that you and Dave are two people that I can probably talk to about horror movies probably until I fall asleep. And I do you feel that the schlocky horror that we all love and grew up on and the slasher stuff kind of got tired, and that's why we saw that.
Yeah. I mean, I it's so hard because it's so generational. Like
Mhm.
to me, I still like. I don't think it necessarily got tired for me,
Sure.
but I can see as like a whole, it's kind of like that with anything. You have anytime something changes and becomes a new genre, it's so exciting for the first few years, and then you realize like everything, and then it becomes harder to find a good one within that. Like what happened with Scream. All of a sudden, you get
Mhm.
these kind of like meta horror movies for the longest time, and like it's exciting to see. I know what you did last summer. It's exciting to see Urban Legend, and then you're like, oh, every movie is this for
Yeah,
ever, and you're
for
like, okay, yeah, like I'm a little tired of it. But the people that did grow up on that, like if when something comes out now that's kind of like a meta thriller or something, you're like, oh, that reminds me of this. I'm gonna go see it. It's awesome. And, I don't know. So it just
yeah. But and then some of that stuff gets milked as we saw with Scream. I thought I didn't see the last one. I have no interest. But the ones before it, whatever, 7 and 6 or something, they were fun. They were
Yeah,
fun. It was
yeah.
an
I
interesting
like
way.
the first. I like the first kind of like reboot that Radio Silence did. It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah, because it is. How do you do the genre in the era of cell phones?
Yeah,
Where you know who's calling and you can see everything that's going on. So, but I also think about how maybe we're not there yet, because horror films do work best when trauma is realized. But I think we'll see some interesting ones that rebound from the COVID trauma and the pandemic trauma.
yeah.
Um,
It's funny you bring that up because I like, you know, the movies that are current that are more modern movies that are based in trauma. You have Hereditary, you have Obsession now. Like just they're off the top of my head, but like I I am a little tired of every single movie trying really hard to be based in trauma.
sure.
Like it doesn't have to be. Like you can still just have
Right.
like a kind of scenario based scary movie, right? Like
Yes.
somebody ends up in a scary situation and it becomes a scary movie. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, this person is like scared because they're in a trap room and a maniac is there, but it's really because their mom put them in a small room when they were younger and they're trying to fight the trauma and they're having these hallucinations while they're fighting somebody that's flashing back to their trauma and you're really like they're getting over it. It's like, no, just fucking kill the guy.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I'm interested to see Backrooms, because Backrooms looks like a scenario that, like, it's one of those incomprehensible, comprehensible things where, like, you could imagine something like this, but like the reality of it is fucking terrifying. Like
Yeah,
walking through a door, even in your house, and it
right.
leads to an entire existence of a place
Yeah.
that you can't fathom it being there.
Yeah, dude, I'm
And
excited for Backrooms to make a bajillion dollars, which is like I know it's going to. It's like it's so funny to underestimate. Like nobody. I mean, fans knew, but like I'm not a Five Nights at Freddy's fan, but I knew because
sure.
of the base that it was going to make $1 billion. And it was like surprising when it made $1 billion. It's like, no, it's not. The fandom for that is insane. And it's like
Yeah.
the same thing with like the Backrooms. Like the Backrooms video have 100 million views. Like of course, like there's so many kids that are fans of that. Like it's gonna make $1 bajillion, and like good for them.
Yeah. Getting back into talking about that YouTube thing, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, man.
I think people saw this coming and talked about it, but nobody believed that it would actually happen. Like these kids growing up making YouTube videos would go on to be filmmakers, because it's a breeding ground for it. It's the
Yeah.
perfect breeding
It's
ground
film
for it.
school. It's
Yeah.
it's you're learning. You're learning by watching others do it and doing it yourself. And before you're paying $100,000 to get told what to do in a class and only be able to do it once a month or something.
Yeah. I went to film school for a year and it turned me off from wanting to be a filmmaker. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would not recommend people going to film school anymore.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
just
wrap.
not
But I
worth
mean,
it.
yeah, like also speaking of one of my top 10 movies, like Talk to Me is up there, and those are YouTubers.
That was
So
I didn't know that. I didn't
oh
know that
yeah,
they were
dude, they had a
YouTubers.
huge YouTube career. They made it's this brother team, Raka
Mhm.
Raka, and they're the Philippou brothers, but they made comedy action skits on YouTube for years, and they are phenomenally good and creative and funny, and so seeing them do a horror movie coming straight out of left field, but from a YouTube background was insane. It was great.
That was a great movie. It was a
Yeah.
really creative movie. I watched that, only of seeing the trailer, and I think I watched that and Bring Her Back, like, the same weekend,
Mhm.
which was probably
Oh
a
yeah,
bad idea,
yeah. Bring her
but,
back to dark.
yeah, it's a fucking brutal movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed Talk to Me. I thought it was like I thought beyond anything it was creative,
Mhm. Yeah, and
and
Talk to Me has the Bloody Mary Candyman thing that I want to do.
mhm.
It's the
Yeah,
Ouija
yeah.
board.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
there
such a good thing. Like the idea of um, teenagers, wanting to rebel and being addicted to like sex, drugs, and violence or whatever, but then like adding possession into that, like like if possession was a drug, of course these
yeah.
kids would fuck with it, right? So it's so cool to just have that extra thing where you're like, how did I never think of that? That's awesome.
I mean, and in reality, that's kinda hits the nail on the head, because in reality, if the supernatural was was a provable thing that people could access,
Hmm.
um, people would abuse the shit out of it.
Yeah.
100%. It would be on YouTube. It would be on cell phone. It would be on Instagram, and people would treat it like a drug.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I do want to mention, and I do want to, we lost Sam Kieth recently, and you worked with him, you were friends with him, you worked with him on Ojo, and I just it all in all, like him as a person, him as a friend, like what did he bring into your life when you knew him? Not obviously we grew up looking at his art, but
Hmm.
when you met him and yeah, the inspiration that he left with you.
You know, when Sam passed away, uh, I did kind of like end up talking to a few people that also knew him, that were close to him, and or that were fans that had become kind of close to him in certain years, and like Waychak and my friend Chris Wisnia and some other people. But like, it was so weird because what I thought was a singular kind of experience that I had with him
Hmm.
was this experience that everybody that knew him had, and it made me feel really happy, even though I was like, oh man, like he honestly had that much like when we were friends, it was extremely surreal to me because of how much I was a fanboy of his. So how much he connected with me, and like how much we talked and stuff. Like if for a while in the beginning, it was, I didn't think that I was being myself because I was just kind of hyper aware of like not wanting to like, wanting to be like cool with this guy that I loved. His art was so great, but he naturally kind of like made me feel pretty comfortable pretty quickly. But
Hmm.
we would talk for hours on the phone, and like every day, like he would. It almost felt at times that he was like living vicariously. Like there was a generational gap where he was kind of mentoring me in the art sense, but also like he was a very recluse, 40-year-old at the time that I was a very active 20-year-old, and
Hmm.
and so it was almost like uh, he was doing research by being my friend, but in an appreciative way. Like I don't really know how to,
Yeah.
like in an exciting way. He would like call me. He'd go, "How'd your date go, dude? Like what's up? Like like was it weird? Like what's going on? And but then also he would just talk about the comics industry, and he'd talk about art, and we would talk about stuff, and animals and whatever. And but he was so humble and soft spoken and so great. And he would even call, and like one of the coolest things is he was working on the Hulk Wolverine kind of miniseries reboot in like the early
Hmm.
2000s. We were, or maybe late 90s, early 2000s, and we were really good friends at that time. And I'll never forget when he called, and he called me. He goes, I was like, oh, I'm eating dinner. Like, can I? He's like, I just have one thing. I just have one. It's really important, and it's really important. I'm like, oh, okay, what is it? And I went into my room and talked to him. He goes, I'm working on the last page of like issue like 3 of this thing or whatever it was. And he's like, I can't, I can't figure out. I have 3 panels. It's going to either start on Hulk's eye and pan out, or it's going to start far away and pan into his eye. And I don't know which one is right. I need you to tell me right now which one is right. And like, I don't remember what I said at the time, but in my mind, I was like, I can't answer this, right? Like this is too big. Like to me, it was like the biggest. It was like a Sophie's Choice, biggest decision I've ever made. I was like, no matter what, it's going to be the wrong one. He's going to hate me. This is horrible. I don't know what I'm doing. And instead, I just like confidently was like, start far away, go into his eye. I got to go to dinner. Like done. And he's like, oh my god, thank you so much. And then like I didn't think much of it. And then the comic came out, and whether I said that or the reverse, like that was in there, and I was like, oh my god, I did that. Like sick. Like I was like, you listen to me. That's cool. And I think like kind of like after that, it kind of allowed me to realize that he genuinely is like interested in collaboration and feedback, and like he likes hearing what people have to say, and he was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it seemed that way. I only met him once, but it was, like you said, soft spoken and nice. But talking to Kelly Jones about him, who, they grew up together and lived, they were best buds about Sam, and he kind of said the same thing. Like he Kelly told me that the reason why Kelly ends up doing all those Batman covers into the breaking of the Batman's back is because Sam's like, I can't do this. You do it.
Mm,
It's like, you take the job.
right.
So, but he was such a inspiration. Like, when he passed, obviously people are gonna remember him the way they do, but it was pretty amazing to see the amount of people from all across, not just fans and not just artists, but like musicians, entertainers, like people just being like the Max inspired them or pushed
Mm.
them to get weirder with their career. And I mean,
And the
his
Marvel
art
comic
is
covers and stuff,
yeah,
and even the interiors, of course. But um,
yeah,
yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things where like you take things for granted, and not that I definitely regret anything, because we were good friends for a long time, and then like naturally, like because of that generational gap and because of things that he was going through and this and that, like
hmm
we drifted apart as everybody kind of does, and we would keep in touch through email. He became a little more reclusive, and wouldn't stop emailing, stop talking on the phone, this and that, and like occasionally he would write back and he'd be like, oh, I just want to let you know I'm doing okay, good hearing from you. Like,
hmm
we would talk about trading art every once in a while, but it never kind of happened. But like, in all the times that we had hung out, I have plenty of personal experience, which is amazing. But like, I never got anything like signed. I never like, like I didn't, which I was just thinking about the other day, because I have art from him. Like we've done sketches for each other, and I have
Sure.
cool art and stuff. But yeah, like I never was like, here, man, sign my Max comic. Even like sitting next to him while he's doing a signing for other, like, which is funny. But I do have, actually, since we're here, I do have something cool. I just
Yeah.
forgot about this. This is Sam's book, his Worlds of Sam Kieth, that he put out,
Oh
an art book.
shit.
He did this, I think, like maybe 15 years ago or so, but or maybe not that long ago, maybe 2015 or so. But in it, I have this drawing. So this is actually an original Remark drawing that he
Oh,
painted.
that's so
So off.
cool.
So that's
Oh,
got that little guy.
did that coincide with his art show in San Fran?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Which
did.
so I think
Yeah.
it was about 2012, probably, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. But yeah, I mean, when he passed, I mean, I thought of you and I thought of Dave and I thought of
Mhm.
John and then I realized like
Dude,
I was like, I know so many.
he loved John so
Yeah.
much, which is awesome. Like, because I also love John, but it's like it's funny because John has always had also like a soft spoken kind of persona and
Yeah.
stuff. But Sam was like so enamored by him. It was great.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought about like I got to see the Chicken Revolt book at
Mm,
OAX, and it's like I hope that and we're talking about John Wayshak. I hope that John releases it. Me and Dave talked about like he should just release it as is, and maybe do like a Kickstarter and you know
yeah,
split the money with Sam's family, or figure out something. But it would be nice for everybody to get to see this unfinished wild masterpiece.
right. Yeah, I think the it's I also get like if you knew Sam, if he didn't want somebody to see something, he
Mm,
he like genuinely didn't want somebody to see something.
mm,
Like it
fair
wasn't
enough.
kind of just like a pretend like, oh no, don't show it. Okay, you can show it, kind of thing. Like,
Right.
oh, but it's no good. It was kind of just like he was really hard on himself, which was a like terrible. Like he had so much stuff that was just like, this is the coolest thing ever, and he's like, nope, never showing that to anybody. And
Ah,
I think also that's where John and him are very similar. John is
mhm.
also uh, is very private about some of the stuff that he does because he's hard on himself, which he should not be because he's incredible. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like, and so it's one of those things where like, you know, is it like, do we talk to his wife about it? Do we talk to his, childhood best friend? Do we do that, or like, or just release it? Because it feels like, his wife Kathy was also very involved in him and his art and stuff. And so it's like, I personally would like to, you know, be able to reach out to her and get her blessing for stuff,
Sure.
like that. Because I have the we made an Ojo movie, which, did you know that?
That I did. I did.
Okay.
I've heard rumblings of the stuff that was filmed.
Um, the movie was never completed. but we shot a majority of the live action stuff, and then Sam just spent so much time on these like dream sequences that he wanted to hand animate himself, and he just never did. I actually don't know if there's a full cut of the movie ever. If there was, I never saw it, but I do
Hmm.
have the trailer, which I don't think anybody has seen. I
Oh
mean,
wow.
there's a chance that other people may have it on their computer, but I mean, at the time, I'm not sure who else he sent it to, but I have this old, very low res .mov file, this thing that I actually tried to like upres it the other day. I made sure it was backed up and stuff, but uh, I was talking to my friend Chris Wisnia, who took over for me on Ojo, and
Hmm.
shared it with him and this other guy Espen, who was filming a documentary on him the time that we were filming Ojo, and so made sure that they all had it too, and we were all just kind of like, we would never, like, I want to share this. I think it's cool,
Yeah.
but Sam never wanted to share it.
Sure.
Obviously it was never out. He never told anybody about it. And so it's cool for me, like, to be like, yeah, like that was something that like we did and it's cool. And, but because he never wanted it to share, I would just, I don't want to do it without like talking to his wife and being like,
Of course. Yeah.
can I share this for
Yeah.
archival reasons, And so,
And that's, an even bigger conversation that I'd love to have with a bunch of artists is just like, you pick a creator, you pick a musician, you pick whatever, a filmmaker, and there's something or some things that exist that we'll never get to see that we know exists. Like one of the biggest things I think of, and this is Zach De La Rocha did a solo album with Trent Reznor, and
mm,
Zach was
oh, that's
not
great.
happy with any of that. And Trent's like, all right, well, I guess I'll never release it. And Trent has talked about it. Like, it's not up to me to release any of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a
And
lot
I'm
out
still, I'm
there.
still trying to bug Martin Scarelli to play the Wu-Tang album for me.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about. See, there you go. There's another thing. Oh God, fuck that guy. Right? Wasn't he like? Didn't he end up in jail?
Oh, he's a terrible person. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
kidding. I think he sold it.
Oh no. No. Well. Um. So before we get going, Harman Projects, May 30th to June 27th is Dream Bleeder, and it costs $0 to go see it, but
Cost me a
you
lot
know
more than it cost you to go see it.
but and there's going to be some prints and stuff available as well for
Yeah,
for
there's going to
people that
be a
want
couple
to.
prints. There's going to be another. There's actually is well, it probably already it has already opened, so I can tell you
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
um, we are we released past tense at the opening a new limited colorway of. I have this toy called I Love My Job that is
Mm-hmm.
a satirical thing. It's like, yeah, I love my job, and it's this guy with his eyes bleeding because obviously he loves his job. Um, so we did a variant of that is only released at the show, and it's he's wearing an I Love New York T-shirt, and he's piss is coming out of his eyes. So so it's the New York variant. So it's called I Love New York instead of I Love My Job, and it'll be at the show. So if you're there, pick it up unless it's already gone. I don't know.
Yeah, and this is the show that there's a quote from Mayor Mamdani. It said, "This is the best fucking thing I've ever seen in New York City, including me winning the mayoral race."
Yep,
That's a
true
real
story.
quote he said about the show.
Yep.
Yeah. And and then you're going to be at SDCC this year again, San Diego Comic-Con?
I am. I am not at all prepared for it, but I guess I'll figure that out when I get back from my show.
Yeah. Anything else? You got some cards that just came out, some homages to Atom Bomb?
Oh yeah, I did a little Atom Bomb Garbage Pail Kid homage for Gross Con, which is a Garbage Pail Kid inspired convention within a Pokemon convention in Las Vegas. Very niche, but
Sounds like you just
also
made that
very
up.
collectible. um, yeah, and then I'm doing I have a couple things going on in June that I can't mention yet.
Hmm.
I can tell you off the
Okay.
air, but I can't mention right now. And then yeah, and then Comic Con, and hopefully the way that I set up this Dream Bleeder show, because I'm really kind of in love with building this world out still and diving back into it, is half of the show is kind of an installation, is kind of a natural history museum. There's artifacts, there's evidence, there's sculptures and stuff. Um, but the other half is paintings and art. And I set it that up way up so that I want to like travel with it. Like I think it'd be the first time that I'd be
Mm.
able to have like a traveling show where, you know, if if God forbid some of the paintings sell, which is great, I can go to a new city and I can bring new paint. I can make new paintings, but keep the same kind of artifacts, and so people in Denver can see the same stuff that you saw in New York, and it kind of keeps it fresh, and it would keep it exciting for me because then that would also keep me invested in the world and wanting to get like a comic book out or pushing the movie out or whatever. So
Well, I really hope that happens because I really want to see the show. I'd really love to see it travel. I'd love to see it go to Japan and
ooh.
or somewhere, yeah,
Well,
somewhere
you already got all the
interesting.
parts there for the box, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
They
can
are.
give
I
you
guess they're
my
well rehearsed, and I didn't realize that Japan already knew about it. But
well, they deal with yokai there, so their dream bleeders are a little
yeah,
bit
they have. What is
yeah, a little
another?
bit
I'm trying to
different.
think of what it is. Is it a Goku or something? There's something that is physically a nightmare eater, which is awesome.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's
And fuck, I know what you're talking about
yeah,
because I feel like Peach Momoko has put that in one of
okay.
her books.
Yeah. It's kind of like the it would be like my version of like an innocent dream catcher. It's like literally like a nightmare devourer. Like it's cool.
Mhm, mhm. So, yeah, for anybody that's interested, I'll have all the stuff in the description below, including links to Alex YouTube so you can see some of the promo
Mhm.
stuff for the Dream Bleeder show. But yeah, check it out before June 27th. Otherwise, I don't know, your eyes might bleed and you might just cease to be if you don't check out the show.
If anybody out
Th-
there is if you're suffering from really bad nightmares, like not just like shitty ones, not just like, oh, I went to school naked and now I'm bummed out, or like like if you've been like basically just like dying, like these dream bleeders help the most like extreme cases in terms of like equating to like an exorcism, right? Like
Mhm.
you're just a little demon possession is not that bad, but like when to call an exorcist, and that's kind of like what this is. It's like when you need to use this. So
Yeah, and I'm sorry again that like the way that you saw me earlier,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry to scare you like that.
it's
What was that?
I'm glad you're okay now, and I don't want to like say this publicly, but I've seen you in worse conditions.
This is true. This is true.
So
This is true. Yeah. Oh well, Alex, always a fucking pleasure. Thank you so
yeah, man.
much
No, thank
for
you.
and good luck with everything going to New York. Even though people have seen this and it already opened, we all know that
Yeah,
you're
but there's still like going to be like a month left, so not everybody's seen it.
yeah. No, but everybody knows you're okay. That's what I'm saying. Like everybody
Oh
knows
yeah.
that you're okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? I mean, literally, like, nobody knows that I'm okay, actually, because this is coming out. Like, I'm recording this now. Like, so who
Yeah.
knows what happens in between now and the time it comes out? Like, I might not be okay. You might
This is
not be
true.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
You're setting this for like auto upload. You could be, who knows?
I could have a giant moon guy come in. Well, we won't talk about that. Thank you for watching, and thanks to Alex for his time. He actually spent the day shipping most of the art to New York, and I was like, "Dude, take your time. I don't want you to be stressed out." And we had a great time. And once again, I am fine. The blood stopped coming out, and I was able to just kind of stop the dreams from bleeding. And I really hope if you can go check out the show, you're going to be delighted. Harman Projects in New York City. Also, you can catch Alex at San Diego Comic Con this year. You can visit his website, alexpardee.com. He's got shirts, art, prints, all that good stuff available. I will have all of the links in the description below. And, I love getting to talk to him about his process, but also just love hearing what he's working on and looking at the amazing art that he's created throughout the years. Thank you for watching, or if you're listening, thank you for listening. The two ways that you can help this podcast grow is to leave a review, leave a comment, do any type of interaction with it, or send it to a friend or an enemy. And if you join the Patreon, it's $5 a month. It gets you bonus videos from this channel as well as West Coast Davengers, and it helps support the channel. Other than that, Just come back next week for another great episode of Direct Edition. This is Dave bleeding out and saying goodbye.